So that's the history of it. If the doubt, there's scholars upon scholars. For instance, Christianity before Jesus by Professor John Jackson, who just died recently. Christianity before Christ, Professor John Jackson. Will the real Jesus stand up, and things like that. The book Anacalypsis, written, a 2-volume work, written by Jeffrey. So Jeffrey, yeah, Godfrey Jeffrey, in 1838. You got so many that you got a book called The 16 Crucified Saviors by Kwesi showing you that Jesus is the last of the crucified saviors. And I could go on and go on. That alone would be a topic to take. You could take 20 days and still cover that.
Okay, we're going to go back to our listeners and try to pull them in. Good morning. Ellie speaks out.
Yes, Jackie, finally. Good morning to Dr. Ben and Dr. Clarke.
Good morning.
I love you both. I have books from Clarke and from both of you. This is Joshua. I just want to ask a question. I'm going to be brief because I know some people on the line.
Oh, yeah.
But Dr. Ben, a lot of young people, you know, they're really into you, and you're a big inspiration at my college. But I want to ask the question that you said Osiris, Isis, and Horus. That's Haru. So, in other words, that's like African version of Jesus or Yeshua or whatever.
No, Jesus is the European version of Heru.
Right.
Like the opposite. It's like saying Hannibal is the Napoleon of Europe. It is Napoleon.
I understand, but in other words, what I'm saying is Haru is the
would be equivalent to Jesus.
Egyptian Christ.
If you want to call it that, yes, but I would hate to say that because there's certain principles about Heru that are way beyond Christ. The Christ figure is an adulteration, a moderation of Heru.
Right, because he's has a double horizon and all that.
No, because they have taken away the humanity. For instance, they have refused to let Jesus have his wife. But if you listen to Paul, some of the letters of Paul speak of Jesus as being a married man. Those letters have been suppressed by the churches.
Right.
Just like the 18 books. And the Immaculate Conception was not even Mary with Jesus. It was Mary, mother, with herself. The Roman Catholics still. The Feast of the Immaculate Conception deals with Mary, mother, having her as a virgin, but not her son. This is the Protestant version of something that the source from which they came, the Roman Catholic Church, teaches quite to the contrary. And lastly, the story of Jesus loses the entire story of his birth with respect to the role of the mother. Isis played a major role which Mary doesn't play, Magdalene. You got two Marys involved. Mary, the lover of Jesus, and Mary, his mother.
Oh, I see. One quick last question. Now, what's your concept of God dealing with the subjective and the objective reality as far as, you know?
God is a concept of man. Nobody can say it's real or unreal. You believe it if you want, you don't believe it if you don't want. Nobody can prove or disprove the concept of God. It's all subjective.
So in other words, you're saying that he's material?
No, I said it's in the mind.
He's in the mind.
All these things are, when you talk about God and so forth, you're talking about something developed in the human mind. Nobody can prove to you a physical God.
Oh, is that right?
No, yeah, so if you worship a lizard and say it's God, it's just as good as somebody saying the ghost is God or something else. I think Chinua Achebe made it very good in his Things Fall Apart when he speaks of the Englishman coming down and talking about the God of the African man having the God made from a piece of wood up there. And I'm really tightening up the story fast. Now, the African keep calling on his God to give him some rain up in the ceiling of the house. the Englishman insisted that isn't God. God is a ghost you don't see. And the African just came and said, but I know my God. I could show you mine, show me yours.
Okay, all right, going on to the, I'm sorry, but I got to let you get 3 questions in. Good morning.
Good morning, Jackie. How you doing, dog? It's been a nice program. This is Big Money Griff calling out of Inglewood. I want to ask you something about the Schindler's List that just came out, the movie, in terms of those kinds of Jews. But
I have not seen the movie. I can't tell you.
Well, I haven't seen it either, so I'd rather not discuss it.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen it myself, but I was just wondering. I just want to say that it's very, very good to be a Christian here now and seeing that power that we Christians have throughout the United States as well as the world. When we talk about consciousness of the same mind, we Christians really like the fact that we're not forced to wear a certain kind of clothing and have the wrong ideologies of not voting, knowing that there's not a position that anyone holds that got it through not voting. And
wait just a minute. What does voting have to do with Christianity? I thought that atheism. Wait, brother, wait. Now let's have a discussion. You're not preaching in church. I thought we having a discussion. Look, what does Christianity have to do with voting?
You understand what I'm saying?
What does Christianity have to do with voting?
Here's the problem. Everybody's talking at once.
Talk at a time.
Okay, well, he's asking you the question, Big Money Griff.
Only one nation or only one, there are religions that deny people to vote. And all I'm saying to you is that there's not a position that anyone holds that they did not get there through a vote. And now when you say, how do you relate that to religion? All I'm saying is that this is their ideology that we find is part of the problem instead of the solution to our pollution in our country here in America. And so when we go with that kind of ideology, we see that there are certain things that happen to our environment, such as the Latasha Harlins case, where a judge and the people had a chance to desist her from her position. But due to the fact that one lives in the same environment day after day, contributing very well, whatever way they contribute, I would like to get into that, but the key point here is that your contribution to your environment, and when your contribution to your environment is of such to where you allow the wrong kind of leadership that has plagued this land throughout the beginning of time, then you have a problem.
Christianity enslaved, don't forget. Pope Martin V and Reverend Las Casas brought the first people from Spain, Africans who had been in Spain, to the Caribbean, island of Hispaniola, and became the first slave masters to the West. How about that?
And how about the fact that you Christians did not go to Africa and said that you nice, cute Africans, pull up your hand and vote which one's going to get on the slave ships and go to America, and which one's going to live in the slums we're going to create for you. This was not done in a Christian or a democratic way. I think both Christianity and organized religion is highly overrated because most of them are imposed on people by conquerors.
Hitler was a Christian.
Good morning,
And the
Molly.
guy at the head of the Ku Klux Klan is a Christian.
Molly?
Oh, good morning, Jackie and guests. First of all, Jackie, thank you for a great show on last week. Second of all, I just have a question, a comment and a question, and I'll listen to your answers off the air. My comment is this. There's a saying that says, if we don't know our history, we're destined to repeat it. I feel that we are in the midst of repeating our history right now, in that we were a kidnapped people and we were sold into slavery by some of our own people. Nowadays, when the laws...
Wait, which people sold you?
I'm saying, I'm just saying...
You said your own people sold you. Wait now, you can't come and make a statement and just go with it. Name me the African group that sold you.
Some of in the triangular trade.
I want the name, not the...
I don't know the name of the African group, nor do I know the answer to that.
Then how do you know it's a fact?
I'm saying that in the I told them I will accept that we don't know our history. This is the premise. We don't know our history. We do know we were kidnapped people. All I'm saying is that now, with excessive laws overcharging of our youth. That's a form of kidnapping. Right now, when the Department of Social Service takes our young people out of their home, that's a form of kidnapping. Right now, when our legislature passes laws such as 3 strikes you're out, such as the Brady bill, such as the criminal bill, all of these type of things are putting us back into slavery. That's just my comment.
My sister, New York State.
I agree that there is so much about my history that I don't know. I welcome these type of shows. My question is, how do you feel that we are repeating our history now? And second of all, during the days as African Americans, during the African American history, during the days of slavery, what was black crime on crime? The struggle continues, and to God be the glory. Now he answer off the air.
There was no statistics about crime and crime because whites were the one committing the crime, both on themselves and on us. With our extermination, genocide being committed against us and the indigenous people whose land they had taken about. Now, this nonsense of a black and black crime is just like welfare clients. And you see the blacks, when you're saying something bad about welfare, you see back shore there. They treat 4 times as much white women and white people in general on welfare. There's more white and white crime. What happened is that when a black person commit a crime, the police bladder, if a boy went down the street and stole a mango, the police routed down, don't even write it down, hit the little boy, kick him and then go home. When a black person steal a pen, he gets charged with grand larceny. Suddenly the pen get to be a costly thing. If you see, so the thing is that, sure, I don't like the fact of any black boy shooting or raping any black person. I don't like that. And I'm not going to put it in its proper perspective. White and white crime goes on all over the United States. White and white crime is going on in Europe now to the point of genocide, one white exterminate. White and white crime is in Ireland between the English and Irish. White and white crime go between northern white again and northern and southern white. White and white crime goes on every day. When the poor whites are in the street, hungry, old white women and old white men eating from garbage pail, that is a crime by the society.
Let's get into your findings on black slave trade.
The black slave trade, it was, the whole slavery started, and nobody can deny it, with Pope Martin the Fifth and Bartolome Diaz the priest in what is now called Haiti and San Amigos, then called Hispaniola. They brought 4,000 Moors. They were the first Africans brought, not from Africa, but in Spain when they lost power as Moors. It was not until the 18th century I'm talking about the 15th century. In the 18th century, the funds of the army, the people who had been driven from Tanganyika, now called Tanzania, by the Arabs, to the West Coast, all the way over to the West Coast. When they came to the West Coast, the entire slave, it was up and down. There was nothing else. Either to be slaves or become involved in slavery. That's the history. Before that, you had in that area, Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. And nobody can show me in any of those history a slave system. People chaining people, people not having any human rights or human value, none of the Portuguese, as late as the 19th century, Azinga Akum, the Africans, in the state or the nation called Manicongo, sent his sister as ambassador to Portugal to demand, asking why, what kind of human beings would enslave, would put people in such a condition, and that was up into the 18th century. And that woman became, by the way, ambassador for, and also queen, Nzinga, which Professor Clarke's daughter is named after this woman. And there's no record to the contrary. Nobody could name you one state in Africa that had slaves.
There's somebody says they can provide answers to our question about 1492.
Hello, Jackie.
Good morning.
Yes, my name is Amin Hotel. Yes,
What happened was Columbus, who discovered absolutely nothing, started his voyages. The white Jews by religion were kicked out as the Moors were overthrown.
Dr. Clarke, it was your question.
It's near correct. The Moors were overthrown. It was the Africans and the Arabs were overthrown in Spain. That was one of the great events. The second great event is that the emperor of the last of the vast independent states in West Africa, Sonny Ali, was killed coming home from a minor war, and Muhammad Ituri came to power. But he piloted this nation to the apex of its glory right in the midst of the slave trade, and it lasted 150 years into the slave trade. And it was the invasion from Morocco in 1591 that destroyed these states and permitted the slave trade to spread inland. This is far more significant than all this myth about things Christopher Columbus did not discover. Now, Michael Bradley maintained that there were two Christopher Columbuses because he found so many dirt under the name Christopher Columbus. He failed to believe that any one man was capable of that much dirt and that many illegitimate children.
You see, what people need to do is to get a Spanish book about the life of Cristobal Colon, and they would find that, remember, he died in a Spanish jail as a fraud. He was condemned in a Spanish jail where he died for being a fraud. And people forget, the guy that brought Columbus, and he never been in the Americas, in North America or South America. The closest he came was at the island of San Salvador. He landed there, not on the mainland. And the man who was in charge of the ships was Pietro Alonso Nina, the captain of the Santa Maria. Columbus was the admiral in charge of the fleet. But the man who sailed the ships, decided the course, was Pietro Alonso Nino Amor. Those family, the Nino family, controlled both military and civilian shipping, not Columbus.
I'm going to put you on hold. Someone will pick you up and get the information from you, and hopefully you can get down here to the station this morning. If not, you can pick the tickets up at Claremont College?
Yes.
Okay. Again, between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. That is today. So please stay on the line. We'll get your information. Okay. Pick up another call here real quick. Good morning. LA Speaks Out.
How you doing?
Okay.
All right. How you doing? This is Ahmed Octo calling from Soul Central LA. I'd like to first say hi to Dr. Ben, Dr. Clarke. Dr. Ben, I had the honor of meeting you one time. You was at the African Museum at the Coliseum. It is an honor to have met someone like yourself. And I'm glad that James and Tom, who own S1 Bookstore, have your literature there for people like myself who wants to know more about you guys. I feel that the things that you have learned over the years is very important for us as so-called Africans to know more about what's going on back in our motherland. And due to the fact that, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Because you're so quiet back there.
When you're talking, are we listening?
Oh, okay. I'm due to the fact that these people call in and question your wisdom, ignorance of the fact that they don't even know who themselves are. And what I would like to know, I think, two questions. One, if you guys somewhere down in the future have time, we can put together a program that teaching these young brothers who are actually involved in black-on-black violence to sit down and teach these brothers what the true history is all about. And two, I'd like to know, due to the fact that the so-called history that we learn in high school, junior high, et cetera, is there committees being formed, like putting together our history for we can have something inside the school systems? And I feel that we need organizations to, enforce this in the school system, because I just graduated from college, and I spent almost 13 years learning history. And I feel it's very imperative for us to learn more about ourselves as well as someone else.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do for you. Stage a line 4, put you on hold, and someone will get to you and give you information on how to get in contact with them or their contact people, okay? Our time is up, unfortunately, and there's so much information I can understand where some confusion would come as you espouse your findings, but it's too much to really try to capsize in this short period of time. If you can, for this limited amount of time, give us an explanation on Egypt being a Greek word, Africa being a Greek word, and so much more.
Well, Egypt comes from the word Egypticus, the Greek word Egypticus, and of course relates to what the Hebrews call Mizraim, what many other people call by various other names, Sais, and there is a word the intellectuals, the teachers, the priests of Egypt used, and that was Ta-Meri, T-A-M-E-R-I-O-T-A-M-E-R-Y. You could write any vowel you want because there were none listed. The ancient writers wrote constant, and they had the method of inserting vowel sound, and which we didn't come down to us. We hadn't that privilege. The other aspect, and then the continent itself were called many names. Africa is the oldest one from the Greek. Africa, again, the Greek used Africanus, but for instance, Scipio Africanus, they used in around 220 before the Common Era. This thing about Leo Africanus coming from is the name of Africa, it's just nonsense, because that is the Christian era when Pope Leo adopted an African and called Leo the Africans. And they were other name for Egypt, like one that is called, but it's not for, it was not Egypt, it meant the black land. When we say Kemet, Kemet means the black land, the black soil. We see it all over Egypt, the soil is rich and black. But Sais and other names were used for Egypt, and then we have to remember Egypt was not the place on the Nile. It reached the zenith, but the African story of the Nile started in Central East Africa at the beginning of the Blue Nile and at the beginning of the White Nile. I think that should be emphasized. When we speak so much on Egypt, it was the nation in the Nile that reached its zenith higher than any other nation, but it didn't start it. It was started in Central East Africa with the Twa and Hutu people, which was called Sibenetus. Today they're called Pygmies. In the southern part of Africa they're called Khoi Khoi or Hotet. I want to use the right name. Kalaharis or Grimaldis and other such names.
Okay, all right, I'm going to announce this one more time. Hear more. There's volumes of history here, volumes of research. Again, can't be condensed into a 1-hour show, but you'll get an opportunity to hear more this afternoon into tonight from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Bridges Auditorium. That's on the Claremont College's campus. Go there. That's all I can say to you. Dr. Clarke and Dr. Ben, I thank you very, very much for this opportunity today. First annual MEZ, that's the Senior Elder Honoring Ceremony, is awaiting your arrival. 4 o'clock again is the start time. And thank you very much. When you get back to the Los Angeles area, please stop in again.
I will stop to see the beautiful mother and the beautiful daughter.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. LA Speaks Out is where you are. We're going to take a little break here and go into about 10 minutes more a conversation. Since we're on the continent of Africa, we'll look at another aspect when we return.
Sure.
Okay, what's the number of people?
Thank you.
Give it to